I'm here because I am a roaring lion crying out righteousness. Well, you know, on Juneteenth, it says here, I got an article here, it says that in Harlem, New York, an early morning mass shooting in Harlem left 9 people wounded and a college senior dead early Monday, according to the police. Now, you know, Juneteenth was Monday, and so they were out there in a barbecue here in Harlem. The police identified Darius Lee, who was 21, as the deceased on Monday. Lee was a senior at Houston Baptist University in Texas, where he played basketball. He was home in Harlem for summer break, the university said. Shots rang out around 12:40 a.m. on Juneteenth on a footpath along the FDR Drive at East 139th Street below the Madison Avenue Bridge. Manhattan Detectives Bureau head Brian McGee told reporters early Monday. Groups have been gathering on the waterfront promenade for some kind of barbecue or gathering, McKee said. After getting numerous reports of shooting, the police arrived and found 5 injured along the footpath where they were transported by paramedics to a local hospital. So, Juneteenth. And we haven't talked very much about the Joseph Project of late because we've been focusing on asking you to come and fall in love with us to help us save our beautiful house, our beautiful church. But the Joseph Project is, this kind of thing would stop, these killings, and that's going to go on. In fact, I'm going to tell everybody to, for the 4th of July, I'm going to recommend that you don't go out, that you don't go to the park, that you don't go to the beach. I'm going to recommend, and as far as we're concerned, normally we would have a gathering out in our courtyard. We're not going to do that on the 4th of July. It's just too dangerous. It's just too dangerous. And I have to tell Elder Smith and Deborah Love, who is returning, I think, tomorrow, that we're not going to do the musical concert that we plan to do all summer long out in our courtyard. It's too dangerous. I mean, there's random shootings, and it appears that wherever people are gathering, having a party or a cookout or something, these young boys just start shooting, and it's just too dangerous. So we're going to lay low on the 4th of July. And I would advise you can take your own advice. You can do what you want to do. You want to go out and have a cookout, go ahead and do that. But I'm saying it's going to be a very dangerous day. And we're canceling our concert, our summer concert. I am not going to be out there in that courtyard at night. I'm not going to be out there with all these young boys with guns. I'm just not going to do it. So I want to be able to say that, and I also want to report the Joseph Project that we have report that young men now prisoners are dying. The city jails record a second death in 2 days. 8 young men have died in the city jails this year. A person held in Department of Corrections custody died Tuesday morning, the department announced. The individual is the 8th person to die in the Department of Corrections custody this year and the second in 2 days. The person in custody was being held at Bellevue Hospital's prison ward at the Lower East Side and died shortly after 11:30 a.m. Tuesday. The Legal Aid Society identified the man as a client named Albert Dry. In a statement, the Public Defender Organization accused the city of refusing to provide Mr. Dry's lawyers with the most basic information concerning his passing. And this is an all too common scenario that we, along with clients, families, and friends and community, routinely face in these tragic situations. So we are still calling for the Joseph Project, but we've not gotten a lot of support for that. And if I can just say a word about Juneteenth, it was not widely celebrated as, many had propped it up to be. Now, I think they had a concert down in Baltimore with all the old timers, people like Earth, Wind, and Fire, Yolanda Adams, a bunch of really old timers. And I'm not against them because they're old, but they're not. It was like who they had at the Super Bowl with Snoop Dogg and a bunch of other people, Mary J. Blige. These are from 40 years ago, rap music. But there was not a lot to talk about that concert. Even I don't know if it actually took place. I guess it did. I think they had Keo there, Neo, or whoever he is. But it fizzled. It wasn't a really big holiday, Juneteenth. I had a few marches here and there, but I can tell you this, that Juneteenth representing, that somewhere in Texas that slaves were finally free after the Emancipation Proclamation and the war ended in 1865. The Emancipation Proclamation was written or proclaimed in 1863. And so on the 19th of whatever, June, so they call it Juneteenth Day. But I know it's very difficult for people who are poisoned with blackness and racism to understand this. But if you will look at the number of men in prison, first of all, this young basketball player just got shot dead in the streets of Harlem. A young man also died in custody. Were you to look at, and here's some food for thought and an antidote to the poison called blackness. From what was it, 49, whatever the date was, that 1619, 1619, where the first slaves arrived in America, or at least that's the date that they say, could be earlier. Weren't there many? How many arrived in 1619? 40? Maybe 100 all total. And maybe by 1620, there were 300 slaves all across the South. And all of America was only 300 slaves. And by 1670, maybe there were 1,000 slaves. Maybe by 1701, there were 2,000 or 4,000. But what I want to point up to you, up until the time of 1865, when slaves were finally set free, though the Emancipation Proclamation had no teeth to do that in 1863, there were less slaves from 1619 to 1819, which is 200 years, and then 1865, which is 250 years. There were less slaves that worked, lived, and died in America than there are in totality over that period of 250 years. There were less people as slaves in America than there are of men that are Hamites that are in prison right now in America. Go figure. That's right. That is right. There are more than 2 million men in prison right now. And there are more than 5 million men in the system, in the penal system, parole, out of prison, or going to prison, in court. There weren't that many slaves in America. When the Emancipation Proclamation happened, and the war finally ended, if there were 5 million slaves in America in 1865, it was a lot. Now, some people come up with some stats that say there's more than that, was 10 million. But even that, when you look at the fact, what's worse? Being in prison and dying in prison or dying in the streets? So if we are now putting more men in prison than Ghana put on slave ships, what's to celebrate? Why is that Juneteenth? Why is that celebration? Why is that celebration? If we're sending more men, we're killing more men in the streets. Listen, let me tell you something. If the slave master, now there were a lot of lynchings, there's no doubt about that. There was a lot of lynching, there was a lot of castration. There's no doubt about that during that period of 1619 to 1865 and after. But I want to tell you something. If the slave master had killed as many slaves as young black men and black people have killed each other in Chicago alone, and maybe just in Jackson Park, Chicago, slavery would have ended because the master would have killed all the workers. I'm trying to say to you that black people, now the Hamites, have killed more of each other in a matter of 10 years than the white man or the slave master did in a period of 250 years. Now, to be sure, I'm not glorifying, I'm not saying the lynchings were right or the castrations were right, I'm not saying, I'm against that. I'm just trying to show you how much further worse off we are. And you're talking about Juneteenth? You're talking about some sort of celebration? Oh, you say because, well, we got a black mayor now. Yeah? Like you had in Los Angeles? Or like you have here in New York? Where you got men sleeping on the street? You got homeless men sleeping on cardboard boxes? You didn't have that back in 1865. You got homeless, you got families living in homeless shelters off the chart. You got over 75,000 people in Los Angeles that won't go to the shelter. They're living in tents in Los Angeles under bridges. 75,000. And you say, we're celebrating? We got a black president? We got a black mayor? And we have arrived? Are you serious? Are you just sick? I mean, so the perspective is key here. It's very key. You know, on Juneteenth, rather than, here's a young up-and-coming basketball star playing for the Baptist University at Houston, shot dead. And whoever shot him knew why they wanted to shoot, and shot 9 other people. And they're going to shoot more. Juneteenth is a false freedom. And I'm not just concerned about Juneteenth. I'm concerned about, the very fact that all of this poison called blackness, it's just poison. It's just poison. Let me say something to you. I want to talk to you. Can I talk to you? These people running around here, people like Eddie Glaude, Cornel West, Dan Jones, and, LeBron James. If they could be white, they'd give up being black. They stop that. They would give up being black faster than you can say, Popeye the Sailor Man. If they could be white, they'd give up being black. Van Jones? If that boy, Cornel West, Eddie Glaude, Al Sharpton, talking all that black talk all the time, let me tell you something. If they could be white, listen, LeBron James he'd give up his mansion out there in Beverly Hills if he could be white. That's how much they hate blackness. Yet it's a poison, and they know it. And God has sent the word of Hamite. All of them. I'll tell you what they do. I'll tell you what they do. They not only would want to be white, yet they get on television and talk about black this and black that. They not talk all that talk, but really in their hearts, they wish to God they were white. And many of them have gone to try to talk like white people. I call them pinch-nosed Negroes. They try to talk like white folk. Well, right there, yes, you're right, absolutely, really, and absolutely. I call them pinch-nosed Negroes because they try to talk white. They can't color their face, so they try to talk white. Pinch-nosed. I call them pinch-nosed Negroes is what I call them. But if they could, so what they do, many of them, is that they marry somebody white. We got 2 Supreme Court justices that are black. Clarence Thomas, right? And what's the other woman named that we got? That's got appointed, right? What's her? Khadijah Brown Jackson. Anyway, both of these black judges are married to white people because they want to be white. They talk that black talk on television. They talk that black talk marching up and down the street. They talk that black talk. But they really want to be white. They'll give up being the Supreme Court justice if they could just be white. If they could just be white. You see? And I know it. And I call them out on it. They don't even want to be Hamites. They don't even want to be that. So I thought I would let you know about that, pull your coat. But God has sent me here to work. The Lord has sent me here to work, to love you and to teach you and bring you into a place where no man can put you down. Stay with me. I'm James David Manning, everybody. I'll be right back.